welcome to the deep dive. You know, something that keeps coming up lately in articles, conversations, is this 30-day no-sugar challenge.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds pretty simple, right? Just cut out the added sugars, focus on whole foods.
Yeah, on the surface.
But what's interesting is how different they can all be. Some are really strict, others less so.
But the core idea usually is hitting that reset button. For your body, maybe your taste buds too.
Exactly. And why do people even do it?
Well, you hear a lot about the health side, obviously. Maybe managing weight or getting blood sugar more stable.
Right.
But also, I think just curiosity. Like, can I actually change my sweet tooth? How much sugar am I really eating day to day? It's like a little self-experiment.
Which, honestly, when you start digging, it's kind of mind-blowing. I saw this stat from the University of California, San Francisco.
Oh, yeah.
Get this. Manufacturers add sugar to 74% of processed foods.
Wow, 74.
Yeah. And not just the obvious stuff like sodas or cookies. It's hiding in places you'd never think. Sauces, bread,
Right, savory things.
pretty much everything.
And that hidden sugar, that's often the tricky part. So yeah, for this deep dive, that's our mission. Let's really unpack this whole 30-day no sugar thing.
Okay.
We'll look at what the sources say, the potential upsides, what the actual experience might be like.
And maybe help folks figure out if it's like something they might want to try.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's get down to it then. The nuts and bolts, or maybe the unsweetened apples and whole grains of how these challenges actually work.
Right. So the core principle, like we said, is ditching the added sugars for that 30-day period.
But it's just as much about what you do eat, isn't it?
Absolutely. The focus really shifts onto, well, nutrient-dense whole foods.
Okay, so like what?
Your vegetables, fruits, plain dairy stuff with vitamins, minerals, fiber, not the empty calories people talk about with just plain sugar.
Gotcha. So if someone's thinking about this, what's off limits for those 30 days?
Yeah.
One of our sources, Healthline, had a pretty detailed list.
Yeah, it starts with the obvious sweeteners, right? Table sugar, honey, maple syrup.
Corn syrup,
Yeah.
agave, even coconut sugar.
Yep, those are usually out, but then it gets broader. Think all those sweetened drinks.
Sodas, obviously. But also like sweetened smoothies, juices, fancy coffees.
Uh-huh. Sports drinks, too. Big source of hidden sugar.
And it doesn't stop there, does it?
Nope. Condiments are a big one. Ketchup, BBQ sauce, honey mustard, even some coffee creamers.
Wow, okay.
Then you've got your flavored yogurts, ice cream, chocolate milk, the usual suspects in the dairy aisle.
And baked goods, I assume. Cookies, cakes, donuts.
For sure. And even some breads. You have to check the labels for added sugar.
Right. And breakfast seems like a minefield, those sugary cereals.
Oh, yeah. Or granola bars that sound healthy but aren't always. Flavored oatmeal sometimes, too.
Candy, obviously. And sugary cocktails or beers.
Generally, yes. It's a pretty wide net when you lay it all out.
And interestingly, a lot of these challenges also say to avoid the artificial sweeteners, too. Like Splenda, stevia, monk fruit.
Yeah, that's a common recommendation. The idea there is often about really resetting your palate.
Oh, okay.
Not just swapping one type of sweet for another, but actually reducing that overall craving for sweetness itself.
That makes sense, sort of retraining your taste buds. And I think I saw something about refined grains, too.
Yeah, often there's a suggestion to minimize things like white bread, white pasta, white rice.
And go for whole grains instead, like brown rice, quinoa.
Exactly, as long as they don't have added sugar, of course.
Okay, so that's a lot of don'ts. What about the do's? What should people be eating?
Well, the good news is there's still a ton of great food. Healthline listed loads of options. Lots of non-starchy veggies, broccoli, cauliflower, spinach, carrots, asparagus, zucchini.
Sweet potatoes, too?
Yep, those are usually good. And then plenty of fruit. Apples, oranges, berries, grapes, cherries, grapefruit.
Nature's candy, right.
Kind of. And for protein,
Yeah.
chicken, fish, beef, tofu, eggs.
And healthy fats are important, too.
Definitely. Things like egg yolks, avocados, nuts, seeds, olive oil, even plain unsweetened yogurt fits in there.
Okay. And what about carbs for energy?
Focus on complex ones. Beans, quinoa, like you said, sweet potatoes, butternut squash, brown rice.
And hydration. Just water.
Water's key. Sparkling water is usually fine too. Unsweetened coffee and tea generally get the green light as well.
So it's really a shift towards whole, unprocessed foods, basically.
That's the core of it, yeah. Rediscovering natural flavors without all that added sweetness.
Okay, so you make the leap, you become a label-reading ninja, you bring your own snacks to parties. What's the payoff? What benefits might people actually see?
Well, blood sugar is a big one. Lots of sources mention potential for lower blood sugar and insulin levels.
How does that work exactly?
Well, think about it. If you cut out foods and drinks packed with sugar, especially the quickly absorbed kinds like high fructose corn syrup.
Right, like in sodas.
Exactly. You stop causing those big spikes in your blood glucose. And some research links high sugar intake to insulin resistance over time.
Which is when your body doesn't respond to insulin properly.
Right. Like the key doesn't work as well to let sugar into your cells. So reducing sugar might help improve that sensitivity.
Okay, that makes sense. And I guess related to that is weight management. That's often a big motivator.
Absolutely. Sugary stuff tends to be high in calories but low in, well, making you feel full. Protein and fiber do that better.
Uh-huh.
So when you cut out those sugary calories, you often naturally reduce your overall intake. The sources definitely link high sugar diets to weight gain and obesity.
So swapping them for more filling, nutrient-dense foods can help.
It certainly can contribute, yeah, especially if you focus on those whole foods that keep you satisfied longer.
It's not just about weight, right? What about, like, your teeth?
Oh, definitely. Oral health. The connection between sugar, especially sugary drinks, and cavities is, well, pretty solid.
Because the bacteria in your mouth feed on the sugar.
Exactly. They eat the sugar and produce acid, and that acid damages your tooth enamel.
Hmm.
So less sugar means less food for those bacteria, less acid.
Makes sense. A happier mouth. What about some less obvious things, like liver health?
Yeah, this is really interesting. High sugar intake, particularly fructose, is linked to non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, or NAFLD.
Which is fat building up in the liver.
Right. And there was this 2021 study, I think it was mentioned, adolescent boys with NAFLD. They went on a low-sugar diet for just 8 weeks, saw significant reductions in how much new fat their livers were producing, also less overall liver fat, and better insulin levels, too.
Wow. In just 8 weeks.
Yeah, it shows a pretty direct impact, especially cutting things like high fructose corn syrup. It's not just weight, it's organ health.
That is compelling. And the benefits seem to ripple outwards.
Yeah.
Like towards heart health.
They do. Sugar-sweetened beverages, in particular, get linked to risk factors like higher blood pressure, triglycerides, and cholesterol.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, studies do connect high added sugar consumption with a greater risk of heart disease, unfortunately, even dying from it. So cutting back is definitely a positive step for your cardiovascular system.
It's amazing how it's all connected. What about mood? Mental well-being.
That's an area with, like, emerging research. Some studies suggest a possible link between diets high in added sugar and symptoms of anxiety and depression.
Really?
Yeah. Now, more research is definitely needed, but there are hints that reducing sugar might help lessen those symptoms for some people. It's another layer.
Interesting. And skin health. I think I saw that mentioned too. Who wouldn't want better skin?
Right. Well, some research connects high sugar intake with faster skin aging
How?
through something called AGE's advanced glycation end products. It's like sugar reacting with proteins in your body, kind of damaging them, making them stiff.
Okay.
Think of it happening in your skin. So less sugar could potentially mean healthier looking skin, maybe even slowing down some signs of aging.
Less sugar, better skin. Sounds like a good deal. And energy levels. People always talk about the sugar crash.
Exactly. That quick burst followed by the slump. When you switch to getting energy from complex carbs, whole grains, fruits, veggies, you tend to get more sustained energy.
So fewer peaks and valleys throughout the day.
That's the idea, more stable energy.
And the big one, for many people, cravings. Can doing this challenge actually help tame sugar cravings?
It seems like it can. Sugar triggers dopamine, that reward chemical in the brain, kind of like addictive drugs do, actually, which drives those cravings. But the good news is, after you get through the initial adjustment, many people find those cravings really do decrease.
So you're sort of retraining your brain's reward system.
In a way, yeah, making it less dependent on that constant sugar hit.
Okay, wow. That's a pretty solid look of potential upsides. But let's be real, cutting out sugar completely for 30 days. It's not exactly a walk in the park, is it?
Oh, definitely not, especially at the beginning.
What do those first few days typically look like, based on those I tried and what happens type articles?
Yeah, the what happens piece talked about withdrawal symptoms being pretty common.
Like what?
Intense cravings, for sure. Headaches, maybe feeling really tired as your body adjusts, sort of like a detox.
And maybe feeling kind of grumpy,
Yeah,
irritable.
totally. Mood swings can happen with any big dietary change like that.
I remember the I Tried author mentioning hitting proverbial brick walls, low energy, feeling cranky that first week.
Sounds about right. Your body's used to that quick sugar energy, so it takes time to adapt to using other fuels more efficiently.
You might see other physical stuff right away, too.
Yeah, the What Happens article mentioned that initial energy dip, but then it usually stabilizes. Maybe some digestive changes too, like bloating or things feeling a bit irregular as your gut adjusts.
Okay, so you kind of tough it out for those first few days. What happens as you get into week 1?
Hopefully, by then, those really intense cravings start to ease up a bit, makes it feel more manageable.
Uh-huh.
Energy levels should begin to even out less of the crazy highs and lows. And people often report better focus, maybe because blood sugar is stabilizing.
And the grumpiness subsides.
Usually, yeah. Mood tends to become more stable, more balanced.
That sounds like progress. What about week 2? Do things become more noticeable then?
Yeah, week 2 is often when people start seeing, or rather feeling, more tangible benefits.
Like what?
The What Happens source mentions potential weight loss becoming noticeable, maybe seeing improvements in skin, like fewer breakouts, clearer complexion,
Oh, nice.
and digestion might settle down, feeling more regular, less bloated, perhaps.
Okay, so that's probably quite motivating seeing those kinds of changes. Then week 3, are the longer-term benefits starting to show?
Exactly. By week 3, things start to feel more, well, ingrained. Blood sugar is likely much more stable, fewer spikes and crashes, which long-term might reduce insulin resistance risk.
And sleep, does that improve?
Often, yes. People report better sleep quality, feeling more rested, and with more stable energy and just feeling better overall, maybe more motivation for physical activity too.
And then week 4, the home stretch. What's happening by then?
By that point, your palate has likely really shifted. You might find super sweet things taste too sweet now.
Huh.
You start appreciating the natural sweetness in fruit more. Cognitive function, focus, memory might continue to improve.
And potentially physical markers too, like blood pressure.
Yeah, potential for seeing improvements in things like blood pressure, cholesterol,
Right.
maybe even a stronger immune system. It's really about those sustainable changes taking root.
It really does sound like quite a journey over just 1 month. But that A Tried article also raised some specific practical challenges people face, right? Beyond just feeling tired initially.
Oh, absolutely. A big one was just the struggle of breaking the sugar cycle, getting past those energy dips and irritability.
Yeah.
And then the hidden sugar problem. The author really highlighted this, how sugar hides under names like brown rice syrup or evaporated cane juice.
Right. And things you wouldn't expect, marinara sauce, bread, soups, condiments.
Exactly. It forces you to become a real label detective. You have to read everything.
It's so true. Vigilance is key. And eating out sounded like a challenge too.
Yeah, because restaurants usually don't give you an ingredient list, do they?
Oh.
So you have to be proactive. Ask questions about sauces, dressings. Maybe stick to simpler things, like grilled chicken or fish with plain veggies. Even bread for a sandwich can be tricky.
And social situations. Birthday parties, office treats. Those are minefields. How did the I Tried author handle that?
Their advice was basically, tell people what you're doing, let friends and family know you're doing a no-sugar challenge.
So they understand why you're skipping the cake.
Pretty much. It helps manage expectations and maybe avoid some awkward moments or extra temptation.
Okay, so you make it through the 30 days. You felt some benefits, navigated the challenges. What's the big picture? What's the long-term view from the sources?
Well, a really key message is that consistency matters most for lasting benefits.
Meaning, if you go right back to eating lots of sugar after the 30 days.
You'll likely undo a lot of the good work, yeah. Healthline points out the challenge is great for identifying where sugar is sneaking into your diet.
So it's more like a diagnostic tool or a reset, not a permanent fix in itself.
Exactly. The goal shouldn't necessarily be zero added sugar forever, unless advised by a doctor, but transitioning to a sustainable, low added sugar way of eating. That's what Healthline and the I Tried piece suggest.
Making mindful choices long-term.
Right.
Healthline also mentioned something important, the risk of it becoming like an unhealthy obsession or triggering disordered eating.
That is a crucial point. For anyone with a history of disordered eating or even just concerns about their relationship with food, doing something restrictive like this needs caution.
Maybe talk to a professional first.
Definitely recommended. Working with a registered dietitian or doctor ensures a balanced, safe approach.
And the I Tried author mentioned that sugar shock when they tried sweets again afterwards.
Yeah, that's super common. Things taste intensely, almost unpleasantly sweet after your palate adjusts.
Really shows how accustomed we get to high sugar levels, doesn't it?
It really does.
Okay, and for people listening who are thinking of trying it, the What Happens article had some practical tips.
Yeah, good reminders. Like have healthy alternatives ready to go. Fruits, nuts, unsweetened yogurt, veggies, and hummus.
Water, herbal teas.
Right. Things to grab instead of sugary snacks or drinks. And meal planning helps a lot.
To avoid impulse buys or accidental sugar.
Exactly. And having support like a buddy doing it with you or an online group that can make a big difference for accountability.
And finally, it sounds like reflecting on the experience is pretty valuable too.
Absolutely. The What Happened source suggested journaling, tracking how you feel,
Or what?
helps you understand your own body's response, your triggers, what worked, what didn't, so you can set realistic goals for after the 30 days. Make it personal.
Okay, so wrapping this up, this deep dive suggests a 30-day no sugar challenge. It can offer some real potential benefits. Better blood sugar, maybe weight management, more energy, better skin, maybe even improved mood.
Uh-huh. And we've seen what that month might actually look like. The initial hurdles, the gradual improvements, the common challenges, like hidden sugars and social events.
But it's also clear individual results will vary, right?
For sure. Everyone's body and starting point is different. What we've discussed is based on the general picture from these sources.
So as we finish, maybe a final thought for everyone listening. We know added sugar is pretty much everywhere, and we've heard about its potential impacts. So beyond maybe a temporary 30-day challenge, what's one small, sustainable change you could explore to lower your own added sugar intake?
Yeah, maybe it's just reading labels more carefully on your usual snacks.
Or swapping out that one sugary drink you have every day for water or tea?
Yeah,
Something achievable long term.
exactly. Just something to think about based on your own habits and what we've talked about today.
Definitely food for thought. Thanks for diving deep with us.